CBS News contributor and Wall Street Journal columnist Peggy Noonan is with us again. The best-selling author is one of the most well-known voices in American politics. Peggy Noonan was a CBS News producer and writer. Then she became a speechwriter for President Ronald Reagan. We say yay, too, for that, Peggy. She helped him find the words on the day that the Space Shuttle Challenger exploded.
The crew of the Space Shuttle Challenger honored us by the manner in which they lived their lives. We will never forget them, nor the last time we saw them this morning, as they prepared for their journey and waved goodbye and slipped the surly bonds of earth to touch the face of God.
Noonan's ninth book, The Time of Our Lives, is a collection of her essays, columns, and speeches. Peggy Noonan, we welcome you back to the table.
Yay!
Yay! Now, that speech in particular, you write that you had gotten it from a poem that you had memorized in your junior high school, and that the president at first didn't think it was going to work.
Yeah, I didn't even know if he knew the poem. I just had a hunch he did. It had been a famous poem in the 1940s and 50s. I put it at the end of the speech. The president went over it, he makes his edits, he goes on the air, and as I watched, just as all of you did as little children, I knew if I hear those words, it'll be because Ronald Reagan cared about that speech and cared about that poem. Turns out he called me the next day, and his first words were, "How did you know I knew that poem?" I said, "Mr. President, I wasn't sure that you did, but I just had a hunch." And it turned out he really did.
But did he think it wouldn't work for some reason?
Actually, the whole speech he had been a little disappointed in, I think, because everyone was so upset that day, Charlie. Everybody was so rattled. There was nothing you could do to make it better, and he felt that as he was giving the speech. But afterwards, he changed his mind a little bit. I picked up exactly what he felt. I went home sad that day. I think a bunch of us did. Well, obviously we did. But I tell that story in a lecture that I gave to a bunch of college kids a few years ago who were all going into government. I said, let me tell you about a moment in government where you just show up, it's a regular day, nothing's happening, and then big things happen.
Yeah, the day
That's
totally
government.
changes. You also say that all presidential speechwriters should be in their 20s and 30s. That surprised me.
Yeah. Oh, you should be young. Your legs should still work. You should still be able to run down the hall and say, but Mr. President, do you want me to kill this graph? And you should be young enough that, you know, the stuff of politics hasn't dampened your love and your enthusiasm. All speechwriters should be just a little dreamy, you know?
And not cynical.
Yeah, they shouldn't be. Cynicism only cuts into your work. Doesn't help it.
This book should be the best of Peggy Noonan. I know we've talked about this book along the way, a labor of love going back through everything, but I really like the people I miss section.
Oh,
you know?
thank you, thank you.
Yeah, starting with Tim Russer to Jacqueline Kennedy Onassis to
Joan Rivers.
Joan Rivers,
who I just adored. I love these people. When you do what we do for a living, sometimes you get to meet them and know them, and when their boats sink beneath the waves, I always want to say, don't let it sink. That was a great boat. It cut against the sky in a beautiful way, and I want to describe it, and I want to talk about how fast it went and what its destination was. It's important to me. Thank you for picking up on that. Can I note, guys, we are all writers. I learned to write about 200 feet from here in Studio 5 and in the CBS News radio room and TV room, which was the same in those days. And guys, I came here in the 70s, and the guys who I was writing for were old curmudgeonly folks of, God, 50 and 60 and sometimes almost 70, and they were the Murrow boys. And they had invented doing what we do, writing for the ear. I had been a kid who'd always written for the eye. I'd written for a newspaper. They taught me how to do what I do. I had no idea how lucky I was, and it happened all just down the hall for me.
Before we go, you're also you're a columnist, and you write about politics. So where is this Republican race? And we looked at Jeb Bush attacking Marco Rubio in the last debate, and we see lots of columns talking about what happened to Jeb and the rise of Marco.
One of the things I'm hoping right now, by the way, is that each of these candidates' PACs don't decide. PACs exist in part to go dirty and go negative and attack. I hope they don't start doing that. They all did it in 2012. Everybody let it go. This is a year the Republican base is not going to let these guys, I think, tear each other apart without paying a price. Look, the good part of what's happening on the Republican side is it's alive. It's vibrant. It's a fight. It's a scrum. You got the most unusual people in America involved in this thing. Outsiders, insiders, old, young.
But Peggy, to your point in your book, you say you don't like to offend, and sometimes you write tough criticisms about people. This past column that you wrote, you basically declared Jeb Bush's campaign dead. You said,
did.
I don't mean to
so
be rude. Yeah, you said, I don't mean to be rude. But
He said he's not succeeded this year, and there's no particular reason to believe he will.
Yeah, I know. That is tough. How could I do that? I got to tell you, I take it very much as part of my job. You'll see it in this thing. To just tell you honestly what I think I'm seeing. And you're going to ruffle feathers when you do that, and you're going to be sometimes a little tough, sometimes rude even. I always hope, I promise you, at the end of the day that I'm wrong. I hope they turn it around. Do you know what I mean? I criticize the president. I hope 2 weeks later he does something that makes me go, yay, that was fabulous.
Well, Jeb Bush is certainly hoping you're wrong, Peggy Noonan, today.
Well,
So
we will see.
Yes,
We've given him a little
shall
test.
see.
I hope he meets it.
All right.
Thank you. Thank you, Peggy.
Thank you guys so much. It was great to start this here
Congratulations.
with you.